What do you think of muscular anime boys? I don't care for them. I generally don't like how anime depicts masculine character traits. I think that anime and its aesthetic stylings tend to be better for making attractive feminine characteristics, but not so much masculine characteristics. Not in total, just generally. Vaush hates Free. Gale, would you call the boys in Free masculine? You like the guys in Baki? I haven't seen Baki. What is lacking for the masculine characters in anime? Look, suffice to say, in most anime, don't even show people with facial hair. Usually when facial hair exists in anime, it's like it's somebody will have like a ridiculously large beard, or they'll be like a grandpa or something. This could be like a bias towards I don't know, the genetic um dispositions of Westerners, but like most guys past and even in the later bits of high school are going to have visible facial hair. But you see not so much as stubble on a lot of these guys because everyone looks like a woman. Even when they make like manly guys, often, I don't know. For me personally, I feel like the animation style that does the best at making both masculine and feminine characteristics attractive is easily Castlevania. The Castlevania Netflix series has disgustingly attractive character designs. Like it's actually fucking ridiculous. How, like the scientists of Castlevania in the forges deep beneath the mountainside, like crafting the sexiest character designs. It's really good. I like it. Look good in animation too. It's in their eyes. I think their eyes are a big kicker there. Yeah, the eyes are a big one. Can I get like a picture of Trevor real quick? Here we go. Okay, these two. This is great. It is impossible to look at this still from a show and not want to fuck at least one of them. It's impossible. It's again, like I said, forge makers, deep beneath the mountain. Why not put? Well, I'm fine with both. Yeah, I said at least one. But like I think a big part of it is that they gave him his lips are literally as thick as hers, which by the way is true to life. In real life, women don't have larger lips than men. Like by default. They're the same size. But we just stylize it as women having visible lips and men not, usually because of like lipstick, but absent lipstick and they're both large. Larger lips are considered, like an attractive characteristic. Or at least
Up
visible lips are a
yours,
component of
moralists. We'll see who
making
cancels
characters
who.
sexually appealing in animation because it makes you want to kiss them. That's how it works. White people suffer greatly in this regard. True. Wasn't it recently in that Vsauce video where he said that the only physical trait that's changed over the past few decades in terms of representation on magazine covers is that people's lips have gotten larger? A lot of that probably has to do with the normalization of non-white associated physical traits, which makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. Seems nice. Oh yeah, here's the other fucking. Speaking of feeling comfortable making people attractive, not that I would call him particularly masculine, but Alucard from the goddamn show. Yeah, yeah, I don't know if he fits in the masculine bit. He certainly does. Alucard, not so much. Um, Femboy, no, Alucard is a FemMAN. Okay, understand this. I actually appreciate that because usually in animation, okay, this is a shitty PNG clip out, hence the pixelization at the edge here. I appreciate that because usually when you have guys with feminine characteristics, they're like tiny, like literally just look like girls in anime. He doesn't at all. He just looks like a femme man. I respect this. You know what I mean, right? It's one of the great lies of femboy representation online, both in pornographic and non-pornographic characteristics. It's that so often it's like, yeah, I'm gonna draw a femboy, and then they just draw a girl. Job's done. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with that, but like we're it, it's just we're just a bit roundabout. I mean, if you wanna draw someone who's just a girl and they have a penis, you can draw a trans girl. It's fine. That's great. Great, good. but not so much like Femboy. It gives feminine men unrealistic beauty standards that are hard to achieve. Yeah, I think it can be a little bit shitty. Especially, it's like you can see it with like the hip to waist ratio on some of these alleged femboys. You know, I don't know if they're all HRT femboys out here, but it's like, yeah, you know, here's the guy in this anime, and he's got like a 2-to-1 hip to waist, and it's like, okay. So are you like an HRT femboy? Like, you know, I don't know. I'm rambling. It's about the idea. Again, there's nothing wrong with this, but you have to admit that in a lot of contexts, depicting femboys the way femboys actually look in real life is kind of rare, right? Like, even when you draw like sexualized women in media, you know, there are women out there with like big fucking tits and like hip to waist, whatever. You know, it's an archetype that is represented in reality, maybe exaggerated often in media, but it's a real thing. But then it's like, okay, and here's the archetypal femboy, and it's not physically possible without like boatloads of estrogen being injected directly into their eyeballs. Godspeed to them all. Is One Piece based? Yes. Does anime think that FemMAN are just womanized men? I think I think a lot of it is just that like now that gender nonconformity has grown more common, both in media and in real life, and there are more feminine people who have penises, which is a primary draw for femboys in like a sexualized context, you know? I feel like there's a compensation for this by having like hyper feminine characteristics, you know? In all associations, and there's less. I guess another way to put it would be, this is such a weird thing to start off the stream with. Okay, so you all know about Futanari hentai, right? Please do not ever call a trans woman a futa woman in real life, by the way. She'll have grounds to kill you if you do. But you all know what I'm talking about. If you take a look, like, historically, at the vast majority of hentai with women with penis, whatever, you know, the woman is a cis woman with a penis. That is to say, like, in every way that you can sort of refer to in media, it's like a magic thing. Like it's a cis woman with a penis, often with a penis and a vagina. But lately, I think in hentai, it's more common, or maybe not more common than the former, but more common than it was previously, to have the woman with penis media archetype being full of women who are characterized as trans. You know what I mean? So it's as though you had an unreal concept, mostly unreal. There are intersex people, of the futa woman being sort of ascribed to reality through the normalization of trans people, and of course the sexualization of them that has followed for quite a while. So in a way, that's preferable representation. I feel like this is kind of comparable to what we see with the whole femboy thing. In the same way that woman with penis was a hentai archetype that had to be expressed through none but the most hyper feminine woman possible in every social context, you know, so too must the femboys all look like girls and have the voices of girls, and so on and so on. What the fuck are we talking about? I understand maybe an eighth of the people who are listening right now can even... Look, for those of you who can't, that's wonderful. Keep your lives up, okay? You're doing great. But for those of you who understand what I'm talking about, yes. I actually think there's a lot of sociological value to the study of pornography. The problem is that a lot of the conclusions drawn from research like that are often really fucking boring and obvious. Like, I've seen so many people talk about oh, did you know that like porn, like if you look at a bunch of like Bang Bros, like Bang Bus, porn IRL videos where they pretend that some like Croatian chick on the side of the road is desperately in need of money and will suck dick for money, and then the scene ends away. Did you know that watching 50 of those a day will make you more misogynistic and your dick will get limp faster? Thank you. You know, None of the real stuff. Nobody's out here doing the groundbreaking, you know, envelope pushing shit. Porn is so boring. Real IRL porn, like with live actors, is often very boring because they feel like they don't have to try. Because it's, you know, we're biologically wired in order to find that stuff arousing anyway. So it's like, you know, as long as you have the basics. But there's very little artistic evolution. There is artistic evolution in drawn pornography because the people who do drawn pornography are artists. Artists will spend their entire lives refining their craft, whereas the camera people and cinematographers and directors for porn are operating on like a rapid production, like factory line model. So it's not about like the perfection of an individual piece. There are hentai artists out there that'll agonize over character design and blah blah. I respect the effort that goes into it. That's not to say there aren't hentai artists who don't just crank out a bunch of shit, of course, but Marvel movie style? Yes, that's the real problem, okay? It's Wes Anderson hentai versus Marvel Cinematic Universe live action pornography. You know how it is. Of course, the difficulty is, you know, ever since they banned or got rid of all the non-verified accounts on Pornhub, if you go on Pornhub and look at IRL porn, it used to be only 1/10 the chance. Now there's 1/100th the chance looking through Pornhub that you're going to see any fucking creepy ass shit. Whereas if you go to a hentai site, you basically have to disable like 16 tags before the site's even usable. Which movie director would you want to see make porn? Well, I actually do think that Wes Anderson would make a pretty interesting porn movie, you know? I mean, the eye for composition. Yeah, I don't know. I mean that would be one of my higher up. I would not want Tarantino. Absolutely not. Not even a little bit. Wes Anderson regular movies already suck? What the fuck? Okay. Martin Scorsese porn. I never saw The Irishman. I really should do that. Why do you watch porn so much? Does it make you feel sick? Watch? You mean like IRL porn? I don't. Because it probably would. I do. I will say that I don't really shame people for like porn consumption or whatever, but anyone who can casually look at IRL porn when they're not just trying to come is a psychopath and probably a serial killer. IRL porn is fucking disgusting, no matter what its contents are. Unless you're like 2 minutes from nutting, in which case it can be tolerable depending on how hot the actresses are or whatever. But there are people who can like look at porn just casually without even masturbating or whatever. I think it's a porn addiction thing. That's insane. That's like scary, very scary. As compared to hentai, well, if you like illustration, which I do, you can like drawn pornography for artistic reasons outside of eroticism. I don't think that applies to IRL porn, you know? Like there are artists that I follow on other Twitter accounts that I have where it's like, oh, they drew this chick sucking a giant dick. Wow, what a great job they did with these teeth, you know? That's like a real thing that you can think. I don't know what you can get from like IRL porn. I do watch porn for references, Lamont. Yeah. Anybody who's into art can like pornographic art for the art, but I don't think there's anything to pornographic live action stuff outside of the pornography. Unless you're trying to get some cinematography tips. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else. Why is she using teeth? What? People have teeth. What? What the fuck is IRL porn? What? Porn with people. Live action. Vaush, I think you're completely wrong. There's porn out there, almost entirely amateur porn by actual couples that has some artistic and expressive value outside of just being arousing. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I do just think you're a psychopath. I'm really sorry. My interest in looking at actual real life naked people is nil, unless like I want a nut, unless there's something else going on. Like if it's in a movie and there's some interesting shit happening that's not just like the naked people, it's just a scene, like that's fine. But like, yeah, let me boot up like 40-minute stepsister gets stuck in dryer. Yeah, you fucking some background audio while I respond to emails, you know? Jesus Christ. Hard to disagree. I think amateur porn is good compared to... It's not about whether amateur porn or studio porn is better. It's that I you know what? I'm not going to convince any of you. You're not going to convince me. Hey, Corvus. You're talking about Gonzo versus Feature? Yeah, well, the vast majority of porn made with live actors has essentially no value outside of eroticism because it's not made to. It takes work to give something value outside of that alone. I feel the same way about a lot of horror movies and games, by the way, which is why I don't like the genre that much. There are a lot of horror movies and games that feel like they have basically no artistic value outside of the ability to scare you, which to me is an absolute waste of time. I'm pulling out the virgin poll because you need to remember who you're talking to. Oh, shit. All right, it's 50-50 in here. That's right. You're right. I gotta keep that in mind. Thank you. Isn't porn you don't jerk off to the premise of every strip club? Yeah, and I don't go to strip clubs. That's also insane. Why would you ever spend money to go into a room with a bunch of other sweaty dudes and watch someone dance naked and not jerk? To me, I don't get it at all. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against nudity or dancing, but strip clubs are. It's the same with like porn theaters, right? Like, I don't get it. You know? Like you can get arrested for jerking off at a porn theater, can't you? Because like Mr. Bean, that's how he got arrested. But it's a porn thing. Why would you ever go to watch a movie that is porn? Now that stupid Vaush strip clubs you can actually touch and feel and talk to the girls completely different. I I don't think strip clubs let you touch the girls. I think they shoot you for that. Oh, sorry, Pee Wee Herman, not Mr. Bean. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, they both have juvenile names. Yeah, guess they do. Vaush Lamau. Wait, do all strip clubs you can just well, okay, so I have to say, by the way, I have no interest in like touching a chick because it's like, yeah, you can tip me more or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't I feel like if I want to touch somebody naked, I'll like get a Tinder date or something. I don't know. The whole culture would around strip clubs would have to change for me to this is probably like a cultural thing, right? Because like a lot of strip clubs really are just like a bunch of skeevy dudes, like as like a single mom who's trying to pay off student debt is dancing, and like she hates everyone there. Like that's a thing, you know. I don't. I've never been to a strip club. I don't think I'm making that up. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. But if you had some kind of hypothetical cool strip club where the people weren't skeevy and there were like fucking skee ball tables and the cool hover thing that you get at arcades where you both have the little paddles that you hit the floating on the air table, and also there are some hot ass big titty chicks and they're like cool is that called air hockey? Yeah, okay, air hockey, yeah. And like the environment's cool. I don't know, that could be cool. Yeah. This isn't like an opposition to the concept of a strip club or whatever else, you know. It's just the So sexy Dave and Buster's. I've never been to a Dave and Buster's, but like, yeah, arcades and titties seem like a kind of natural paired business model, right? People would pay a lot of money for entrance than that. They could charge $100 at the door, and they would have a solid clientele if they had like good games and like sufficiently attractive people. It would also need to be like a very gay place because I don't kind of feel like I don't want to go to a strip club. It's only women, you know. If there were also guys, I feel like that'd be better. What about burlesque? Well, yeah, that's cool. That's not really like a strip club. Well, it can be. I mean, there's like a kind of blurry Venn diagram overlap in some cases, but it's not necessarily the same thing. When back when I would occasionally go clubbing at the hot and sexy clubs in Los Angeles, they would have like the stripper poles, and people at the club would jump up and dance on them, you know? You meant once? No, no, no. I went with work friends at least half a dozen times. I hated every time I went there, mind you. This was a peer pressure situation. It's too loud for me. But I did take notes. And the um, the people would jump up on the poles and they would dance themselves. And that seems cool, right? Like if you at a club where the people who dance are like aren't employees but clients, or like a strip club where people volunteer or whatever. Maybe that could be more fun. I know that's a thing at a lot of places where people will be like, "Yeah, dude, I'll go up on the pools." Yeah, that could be a liability issue. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know. Do you think Japanese girlfriend bars would work here in the United States? Speaking of things that I'd rather die than go to, oh my God. It's like the Maid Cafe thing. Listen, don't get me wrong. I don't have a heart of stone, okay? Seeing a cute girl in a maid outfit obviously is cute. Okay, I'm not inhuman. I'm not a literal monster. Obviously it's cute, you know? But the idea of going the idea of going to a maid cafe and like I really maybe this is kind of fucked up by like my attitudes about worker exploitation, but I derive no enjoyment whatsoever from performances of attraction or appearance being done by people who are employees. There would have to be some exceptional set of circumstances, like if I knew a place was like worker co-op or whatever, or we lived in some kind of like soc dem plus society where everyone's needs are taken care of. I never want to see a cute girl in a maid outfit who's like giving me my coffee or whatever and think like, wow, she's hot. And then think like, she would probably rather be wearing normal clothing. She's only doing this because she needs a tip to like pay student loans. And that like instantly kills it for me. Like immediately. You know what I mean? So I can't enjoy any of that stuff. And that feeling of disconnection like grows worse and worse the more they're like doing for you. So strip clubs, that's up there, you know, any kind of sex work. There are mitigating circumstances, right? Like I don't think it's this is just like a personal thing, right? Because again, like all labor is exploitative under this system. So this is the case for like any kind of service work. But I think there's something different about like going to a Benihana's and having a chef dude like do some sick shit with an onion volcano. And I'm thinking like, this guy works for a living. He might not want to do this. But then I can think like, but that was a cool onion volcano, you know? But maybe there's something about the idea of a maid cafe where it's like that illusion is really broken by the like the coercive element of necessary work. There's something about that that's different. Maybe because like when you see a really like cute girl that's like being all nice to you, the emotions that that's supposed to elicit in you are ones that feel like they bring about like a greater sense of emotional like empathy maybe like the vibes that are being pulled upon involve like a greater degree of perceived or experienced connection than if it's just like a server or like a Benihana dude or whatever. That's not to say it's like a real connection, but it's like it's the aesthetic of one. You get what I mean? And why would they work there instead of Applebee's or something? I mean, people get the jobs they get, right? Again, like it's just a feeling on my part. I can't like logically prove or disprove like any given person in any situation is like gonna want to be there or whatever. Oh, Merrick, the chat is full of virgins. I can't. You can't. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Um. I could never deal with the weird subservient nature of maid cafes. The fact that maid cafes are also like a subservience thing to an extent. They are like literally serving you. Maids historically and culturally, their job is literally as servants. So that's like what's being pulled upon, you know. Maybe that makes it feel a little bit more weird. Maybe that's one of the reasons. I feel like this is one of the reasons why people on the left feel way more comfortable talking about sex workers who have dominant roles rather than submissive ones. Like people on the left will talk about and celebrate like doms or like mistresses or whatever because the dominant element of the work that they do might alleviate the servile nature of employment obligations. But people on the left don't talk the same way about like mega subby sex workers or whatever. At least not like broadly, I think, because it pulls upon that a little bit more. But that's just an illusion, right? You can have like a mistress who's like super dominant or whatever, but they can be subject to the exact same economic coercion as anyone else. It's 100% just like a made up thing. Yeah, I don't know. You guys you get what I'm talking about, right? That's so dumb. What should matter is how much of a choice the person had when choosing the occupation. Are you going to have that conversation with them? If you're at a maid cafe, you're going to be like, "Hey, when you said enjoy your tea, Kakin, were you saying that because you need a bigger tip, or do you only want a bigger tip but you don't need it because you're fine, or like how tell me about your family life. Like you can't know unless you really know a person. Um, so to explain like where my feelings on this are. My feelings on this would change if I knew a person well enough that I felt like it was chill. So I don't know if I'd feel comfortable like paying for an escort or whatever, even if they were very talented for the reasons that I've laid out. But if I had a friend who was an escort, and I knew them well enough to feel like I had a decent read on their feelings vis-a-vis the whole thing, then maybe like if they wanted to or were down, I could uh, patronize their services. I don't really know. Hey Zan. Plus, I'm getting my friend paid there, so you know. Remember, if you have a friend who has a talent, don't ask for a friend discount, okay? If you're patronizing their services. Sorry, I feel I have a hangnail. 1 second. I mean, if they offer a friend discount, you know, like, you know, if they really want to offer a friend discount, then I guess that's okay. But don't push for that. Is it wrong that I sort of judge people with fetishes that are based on power dynamics, like rape roleplay, family roleplay? I don't think you should judge people for that. As long as they're exercising it in like a safe way, I think that's fine. I mean, people can't really help what they're into, right? As long as you can do it without hurting yourself or others or whatever else. The only thing I say though is that if you have kind of a sussy wussy kink, you should try to examine where those feelings come from, right? I think it's totally possible to have like a rape fetish or whatever in a way that's like responsibly exercised. But it's also possible to like not examine where that comes from, and it might be rooted in some like weird trauma or like a misogyny or some shit like that. You know, like I don't know, like depending on how it manifests. So it doesn't hurt to be introspective about stuff like that. Um, I don't think. Being a stripper is kind of like sales. You're using some level of persuasion to get people to part with money. Yeah, well, that's a huge part of working in general. Yeah. Um, what do you think of erotic audio or erotic writing? Erotic audio holds no interest for me at all. Erotic writing is cool. Like erotic literature. Yeah, it's true, Nestor. Do you think specific kinks can only come from trauma? No, no, I don't think so. I think trauma can often be a source of a kink because kinks are often a way for your brain to externalize and then fetishize internal emotional issues. So if you have like strong negative or positive feelings about something, it can be like a lot of wires get crossed in your brain, right? Like brains are pretty complicated and everything bleeds into everything else. So oftentimes when people have a kink, like it relates in some way to like some experience or feeling they have. But that's not a guaranteed thing at all. That's just like a general thing. Yeah. I see an escort regularly. Am I doing something wrong? No. If you enjoy hooking up with escorts, there's nothing more shameful about hooking up with escorts than there is like spending your money on any other service. People who are like, dude, if you spend money on escorts, why not just get laid? Like why not just like get a girlfriend or whatever? That's like saying, dude, why go to a coffee shop and buy coffee when you can just make the coffee at home? Like it's really dumb. Like sex work is work. You're patronizing the services and talents of a person who's performing a service. Like maybe a better way would say masseur, right? Like if you pay and get a massage from someone else, and then it's like, dude, why not just like get a friend to massage your back? It's like, okay, I mean, maybe, yeah, but like people are weird about it. It's just another thing that you can pay someone to do, you know? Obviously people have way stronger emotional investment in sex than they do like getting massages for the most part, I assume. But I think fundamentally it's the same thing. There are a lot of cultural biases at play here. Am I gay if I think femboys are hot but wouldn't actually do anything with one? Being gay isn't real. Neither is being straight. It's super fucking blurry. I don't know. That's up to you. You decide. Do you think it's possible to have a kink emerge from a lack of something? Yeah, sure. A lack of any experience can have as much of an effect on your brain as the presence of an experience. So why not, right? You did that literally earlier, Vaush. No, I don't think there's anything morally wrong with going to a strip club or whatever. I personally am uncomfortable due to my perception of the power dynamics associated with economic coercion. But if a person said they wanted to go to a strip club, I would never be like, why not just get a friend to dance naked in front of you? Like, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Is having a type the same as having a fetish? No. I think preferences, fetishes, and kinks are all different things, but I don't know how like defined the line are between these things. Like I know there are differences, but I assume the differences are kind of blurry. I don't really know, but I don't think having a type is the same as having a fetish. I guess it would depend on how like specific the fetish is. Vaush, you said earlier this stream to just get a date on Tinder. Yeah, for me, I said that about me. Like, I would rather just get a date on Tinder than go to a strip club and like awkwardly, clammily touch the thigh of a woman who's dancing after tossing a fistful of dollar bills at her. But it's not a moral thing. I mean, if you like doing that, you know. Vaush, you know, like girly moans in your ear? What? When did I state a preference for or against that in this conversation? Like having a feminization fetish from a lack of gender affirmation? Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard like 7 trans girls say that on Twitter today. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem too uncommon. Is pedophilia a kink or a sexuality? Don't people say it's a paraphilia? Isn't that the term they use? I think it falls under the technical block of things you shouldn't do. I don't know about the specific like psychological um categorizations. Opinion on Hooters. I dislike Hooters for the same reason I dislike like the stuff that I said about strip clubs or whatever, you know? I feel like maybe I don't know. I feel like if I'm looking at someone who's really really hot and it's their job to be there and to look hot, I need to know that they want to be there looking hot. Does that make any sense? It's I want to I want to know like the it's a huge difference to me if in their mind they're like, yeah, I'm wearing this outfit and my tits are huge and I fucking love my giant titties swinging around. Great, admirable. Or them being like, yeah, this is my outfit. I needed to get my money. Like it's a huge difference to me. Why does the stream exist? I don't know. Why are 5,000 people watching it? It's the question you should be asking. What do you think about people who have race types? I think that like generally people tend to have slight biases towards certain like physical characteristics that might or might not overlap with like racialized characteristics. I think the problem is when people get prescriptive about it rather than descriptive. So for example, if somebody like a white boy just kind of thinks that like like black hair is attractive, you know, like, and that's just a preference they have. Well, if they think that's like attractive, like particularly attractive, they're probably going to be going after black girls, right? That makes sense. But the problem is if they get basically the problem is when they get weird about it, right? So if a person is like, I think I have a slight preference for this or this, but whatever, there's a huge difference between that and a person be like, yeah, I only fuck black chicks because I love their hot ass hair. Like if you're weird about it, that's when you're going to get the side eye. I think it's good to be open minded though. Like you shouldn't if you're like flat out like barring people as potential romantic partners because of their race, that's pretty fucking weird. If the bias towards certain racialized characteristics is really strong, I guess I tend to side eye that. It also depends on like what those characteristics are, right? If it's very basic like physical stuff, then okay. If it's weird like cultural affiliations, like the guys who are into Asian women because they think Asian women are more submissive, that's really weird. If you're into Asian women because you just kind of like how they look a little bit, like that's fine, you know. If you're into Asian women because you have like weird like power fantasies of the stereotype of the demure submissive Asian wife, then that's pretty weird. Yeah. I know white women who actually talk about how much they want to have black babies. Well, oftentimes the reason white women are like that and very cringe about it is because they had racist parents and they're trying to get back at their parents subconsciously by fucking black dudes. It's like the black guy represents like the archetype of a kind of like sexual freedom and rebelliousness that they weren't able to express under like the rule of their parents. It's real. I think it's pretty fucked to make like other people the subject of that. Like especially if it's unknowing. If you're a white girl and you have a black boyfriend and you explain that to them and they get it, like I don't know, I guess that's fine. But if you're like just fucking a bunch of black guys like fuck you, dad. Like, I don't know. That's pretty weird. It's a little strange. You find the main character of RE4 hot? You mean Leon? Leon's cute, yeah. Oh god, I'm so behind on chat. Holy fuck. Oh god. You watch Curtis Connor on Hooters, Vaush? No, I haven't. But Curtis Connor feels like he's the kind of guy who would have similar opinions to me. Most waitresses only dress hot for extra tips. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that from their end, but that does make me less interested in the fact that they are hot. What do you think about age play? I can't imagine. Major Tom, are you like exclusively here to bait like the most controversial topics you can think of? If a person has a kink and they can express it in a healthy way with another adult that's consensual or whatever, I don't think it's like fair to sit from the outside and judge that. That being said, that doesn't mean you have to fucking participate in it if you don't want to, you know? I don't know what the logical ramifications, like, I don't know what the ethical justifications would be of going like, this sexual act was only engaged in between two consenting adults. It should be illegal. I don't know where you could, I don't know where you could, like, I don't know how you could justify that necessarily. Do you have any particular general armchair psych thoughts on subs/bottoms who are kink for being raped? I have a genuine interest in. I don't know what general armchair thought I would have on that. I don't know. People have wacky desires. Doesn't mean they want it in real life. Weird questions in chat tonight. Well, there are, like I said, there are virgins in chat, and there are also people who get their kicks by trying to like get my take on the most controversial thing possible, you know? But I can ignore that. Any guesses to why step-sibling porn is so popular on the Pornhub algorithm right now? Yeah, I've said this before, but I think it has to do with loneliness and alienation. I think that in times where people are spending less time outside and less time getting along with people around them and less time making friends, all of which can be demonstrated through data, by the way, this is the case. In time periods such as that, people tend to fetishize the idea of like sexual relationships where the existence of the relationship is like granted. It's like a given, you know? And especially if you're younger or like, I mean, like younger than 50 or whatever. I mean, if you're like a young guy or whatever, the concept of like, well, what's a relationship that I could get without leaving my house and like I could take for granted because it's literally like fucking familial, you know? I think that's the main thing that determines it. The popularity of incest porn, I think, is derivative of people feeling less confident in their ability to form relationships outside of the ones that are basically socially obligatory. As for why people are getting stuck in dryers, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know, Days McKenna. But step-sibling stuff has been popular since way before COVID. Yeah, but people are getting lonelier. The trends that I talked about have been the case for the past 20 or so years, I think. Jesus, Merrick. Chat, stop asking me if you're bi. I don't know if you're bi. I can't answer that for you. Your position on underwire panties? I forget what those are. I think I've heard of that before. I forget what they are, though. You're an idiot. You don't know shit about kink? Probably, yeah. Thoughts on kinks that involve being shamed in public and wearing kinky shit in public? I think that should be illegal. You think it should be illegal to be shamed in public? Illegal? Like the force of the state? Like cops with guns? That seems like a pretty extreme reaction. Riley. Jesus. I mean, depending on what you mean by kinky shit, like by kinky shit, do you mean like the shibari ropes or like a dude wearing panties underneath like adult clothing or like what? This. Yeah, as a general rule, if you guys are asking me if you're bi, you're probably like at least a little bi. I don't know. Figure out your sexuality on your own. It's not that hard to do. No, exposing random people in public to kinks for your own sexual gratification. You're literally being Riley. We did a whole debate about this. I don't want to rehash it. Okay, like you realize what you're talking about right now includes showing cleavage, right? So like if a chick with big tits has like two shirt buttons unbuttoned, like the cops show up because I've got like a semi from looking at them. Yeah, look, the rules on this are really weird and like culturally and socially arbitrary. There are like lines that you can find, but they take like 50 hours of moral moral algorithm sorting, you know. It's a whole thing. Want to see something weird? Nope. Best type of sandwich? Honest to God, I think like the best kind of sandwich is something simple. I think that like two nice pieces of bread, some pesto, some chicken, and some cheese, and maybe like a little extra, and that's like perfect for me, you know? I feel like people try to overload sandwiches with complexity, but the issue is if the sandwich gets too big, it's not comfortable to eat. Everyone jerks off like oh, dude, it's the ultimate sandwich, and the fucker's like 10 inches tall. You can't eat that. You have to cut it into bits or like flatten it so hard that it like everything smushes out the side. If you want to talk about like a well-delivered sandwich, like we're talking at most like half a dozen ingredients, you know? And I'm okay with fewer. Just some cheese, chicken, lots of pepper, important, some pesto, and some mustard. That's awesome. I like paninis a lot. Paninis are good.